Imagine this for a second. It's late at night. The road is quiet, your music is low, and suddenly those flashing red and blue lights appear in your mirror. You pull over, your mind starts racing, and then you remember something you saw online. Don't roll your window down all the way. Maybe even just crack it slightly. It sounds smart. It sounds like you're protecting yourself. But what if I told you that this exact advice is one of the fastest ways to escalate a simple traffic stop into something much worse? Because here's the reality. This isn't a movie, and it's definitely not a YouTube comment section debate. This is real life. And the difference between what sounds right online and what actually works on the road can cost you your car, your freedom for the night, and potentially your case. I'm going to break this down for you in a way that most people never hear. Not theory, not internet myths, but what actually happens in real-world situations and how you handle it like someone who knows exactly what they're doing. Because the biggest mistake people make? They focus on the wrong battle. They think the fight is about how far to roll the window down. It's not. You can win that tiny argument about the window and still lose everything that actually matters. Your car gets searched. Your situation escalates. You spend your weekend dealing with consequences you never saw coming. The real moment that matters, the one almost nobody talks about, is what happens after the officer says just one sentence, "Step out of the vehicle." That's the moment everything changes. That's when the rules shift. That's when the situation either moves in your favor or completely out of your control. And if you don't know what to do in that exact moment, you could unintentionally make things much worse for yourself. So let's walk through this step by step. Picture this scenario clearly. It's around 11 p.m. You get pulled over for something minor, maybe a dim license plate light, nothing serious. The officer approaches your car, looks inside, but it's dark. Visibility is limited. He taps on your window and says, "Roll it all the way down." Now your instinct kicks in. You remember something you heard online. "I don't have to do that. I know my rights." And technically, in many places, that's partially true. You may not be required to roll your window all the way down, just enough to communicate and hand over your documents. But here's where reality steps in. When you keep that window barely open, you create tension. The officer can't clearly see your hands. They can't see inside the vehicle. They don't know what's happening in that car. And in their mind, that uncertainty turns into one thing: a safety concern. The moment that happens, the situation starts to escalate. Not because you broke the law, but because you triggered a response that puts the officer on edge. And once that happens, you've shifted the dynamic in a direction you don't want. You think you're standing your ground, but in reality, you're setting the stage for the next move. And that next move is almost always the same. Step out of the vehicle. Now, listen very carefully, because this is where people make a critical mistake. When an officer gives you that instruction, this is not the moment to argue. This is not the moment to say, "Why?" or "I know my rights." This is the moment you comply. Because legally, this part is not up for debate. Courts have already decided this. Officers are allowed to ask you to step out of the vehicle during a traffic stop. It doesn't require suspicion of a major crime. The stop itself is enough. And it doesn't just apply to drivers, it applies to passengers too. So if you resist here, you're no longer dealing with a simple traffic issue. You're now stepping into a situation that could involve charges like obstruction or resisting, and that escalation can happen fast, faster than most people expect. What started as a minor issue can suddenly turn into something serious, just because of how you responded in that moment. And here's something even more important. If you decide to lock yourself inside the car and refuse to get out thinking that protects you, it doesn't. In fact, it can make things worse. Because at that point, officers can use force to remove you. That can mean breaking your window, pulling you out, and justifying it under safety concerns. And in many cases, that action will be backed legally. So instead of protecting yourself, you've now created a situation that involves damage, force, and a much more serious outcome. That's not where you want to be. But here's the part that changes everything. Even though you lost the window argument, even though you stepped out of the car, this is actually where you regain control. Because the moment you exit the vehicle, the entire situation shifts in a way most people don't understand. This is where strategy comes in. You step out calmly, no resistance, no attitude, you close the door behind you, and then You lock it. Simple, quiet, controlled. This one action changes the entire dynamic. Because think about what the officer was hoping for. They wanted access. They wanted visibility. They wanted an opportunity to look inside, to observe, to potentially find something that gives them a reason to search. But once that door is closed and locked, that opportunity is gone. Now, your car is no longer easily accessible. And legally, that matters, because now, if the officer wants to get into your car, they need one of three things. They need a warrant. They need clear, probable cause, something visible that justifies a search. Or they need your permission. And guess which one they're most likely to try for? Your permission. So now you're standing outside your locked car. The officer might seem more persistent, maybe even a little frustrated, and then comes the next move. Before I put you in my car, you don't have anything on you, right? Mind if I check your pockets? Mind if I take a quick look in your car? It sounds casual, almost routine, but this is where many people give in, and this is where you stay consistent. You look them in the eye, calmly, respectfully, and say, I do not consent to any searches. No attitude, no aggression, just clarity. And if they ask again, you repeat it. I do not consent to any searches. You become consistent, like a broken record, but a calm one. Now understand this. Officers may still pat you down for safety reasons. That's separate, but accessing your car is a different matter. Without your consent, they need a legal reason to proceed further. And while all of this is happening, there's one more thing that matters more than anything else: silence. Because this is where people undo everything they just did right. They start talking. They say things like, I only had a couple drinks, or that bag isn't mine, or I was just coming from. And just like that, they've given away information that can be used against them. So don't. Stay quiet. You've already said what matters. You've already protected yourself. Now your job is to not undo it. Because here's the truth. It can feel unfair. It can feel uncomfortable. It can even feel like you're being treated like a suspect over something small. But the side of the road is not the place to argue your case. It's not a courtroom. It's not a debate stage. You're not there to win an argument. You're there to get through the situation in the smartest way possible. Because the real win doesn't happen on the roadside. It happens later, if needed, in a setting where you actually have the ability to defend yourself properly. So your goal in that moment is simple. Stay calm, stay respectful, follow lawful instructions, protect your rights quietly. That's it. Not dramatic, not confrontational, just controlled. So let's bring it all together in a way you'll remember. Don't get caught up in the window argument. If asked to step out, step out. Close the door, lock it. And when it comes to searches, be clear. I do not consent. Then stop talking. That combination, compliance, control, and clarity, is what keeps situations from spiraling. And if you understand this, you're already ahead of most people. Because most people react, very few people respond with intention. And that difference is everything. Now, if this helped you see things differently, do me a quick favor. Hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment below. I read them, I appreciate them, and I try to respond as much as I can. Let me know what you think, or even what situations you'd want me to break down next. And remember this, when things get tense, when pressure builds, and when you're unsure what to do, stay calm, stay respectful, but always stay in control.